Anderson Silva is widely considered one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time in the history of the sport. He's been enjoying himself in retirement from the Jake Paul fight where he lost to Jake Paul in a boxing match to a little bit of weight gain. It is what it is. The kid's 50. He fought Izzy when he was 45. But either way, I am here today to settle a debate that I've created in my own mind, and that is honestly not even going on Twitter. I just wanted to debate it in my own brain. How would Anderson Silva do versus the top 10 middleweights, right? I'm not going to be talking about the Anderson Silva that fought Uriah Hall or Jared Cannonier because, as Joe Rogan has pointed out for us here in this graphic, people forget, man, post USADA Anderson Silva went 1-5. And that is post the Chris Weidman fights. In reality, he was 1-7 post USADA, really, he finished his career 1-7. That's kind of what you need to know. But we are not looking at that. We're looking at the Anderson Silva that beat Rich Franklin. We're looking at the Anderson Silva that absolutely slimed out Forrest Griffin. That's the Anderson Silva we are looking at today. And we will be putting him against the top 10 middleweights, and I will be explaining whether I think he would win or the middleweight in their current form would win. So, first up, Anderson Silva versus Dricus du Plessis. Now, it is the current version of this top 10 middleweight, and you'll see what I mean later in the video, but we're not talking about prime for prime. We're talking about prime Silva versus the current middleweight. Anderson Silva versus Dricus du Plessis is an interesting matchup. Striking-wise, Anderson Silva much cleaner, better kicks. I think his boxing is better. Knees, elbows, the Muay Thai is better everywhere. The difference in this fight, and it's why I'm picking Dricus du Plessis to win this fight, is that Dricus is not afraid to wrestle. And you'll see this be a theme within this video today, that any guy that is willing to wrestle, that can get it wrestling done in fights successfully, I believe they beat Anderson Silva. It is kind of a taboo thing to talk about because we all think of Anderson Silva as one of the greatest of all time. That motherfucker didn't have takedown defense, like at all. Could not defend takedowns. And it's something that I don't know why people don't talk about more. I think it's because enough people didn't try to take him down. It was kind of that, oh, we're going to do the man dance, kind of Sean Strickland-esque thing where guys thought they could outstrike Silva, so they would stand with him. But like Chael's son improved, and Chael was not able to successfully grapple everybody. He proved that you literally could just shoot a blast double and get him down. He wasn't even that durable in his prime. Chael knocked him down in their fight too. Like, if you can competently wrestle, Anderson Silva's beatable. Now the issue would also be holding him down, not getting caught in something off his back. He did that versus Chael. He's done that in other fights as well. Very good BJJ for Anderson Silva. I don't think Dricus would get caught in a submission. I will say, Dricus is a little dumb. So if he stood for 5 rounds versus the Spider, I think Anderson Silva beats him. But I'm going to bank on the hypothetical idea that Dricus would wrestle him for 5 rounds. And I think if that's the case, he would win a decision, probably like a 49-46, where Silva has moments in the first round or the 5th round. So we're going to go Dricus as the champion here. Next up, the number 1 contender at middleweight currently is Nassourdine Imavov. He's coming off the win versus Israel Adesanya. That was the KO. Him versus Anderson is also very interesting. A lot of these matchups are really interesting when you get to talking about them. Anderson Silva versus Imavov in the striking is very close, in my opinion, because this is an evolved fighter from what Anderson was. So, boxing-wise, I really like Nassourdine Imavov's boxing. I think it's incredibly underrated. And his wrestling is solid. He does not really use it in fights, but he has a good ability to reverse, and he can get it to the clinch when he wants to. He did it versus Buckley a lot. Brendan Allen, he reversed a bunch. Anderson Silva, I believe, is a little faster than Imavov, which should play a big factor in this fight. The difference here, and it's why I'm talking about the evolution of the sport, Nassourdine Imavov's leg kicks are a serious problem for Anderson Silva. They proved to be big problems later in his career, but we have to also take into account that these guys are evolved. So they're going to come in there with a calf-kicking game plan, and Anderson Silva in his prime wouldn't know how to defend calf kicks that well. He couldn't do it at the end of his career. It's how Jared Cannonier finished him, I believe. So I think Nassourdine Imavov wins. I think it's pretty competitive on the feet. He has looked a little sloppy at times in the striking. Like I felt like Izzy won the first round against him, but it was close. And he could honestly catch Silva. So I would go with Nassourdine Imavov in this fight, just based off the low leg kicks. I just think Anderson would have a lot of trouble with that on the feet. But I will say, if it was a finish between the two of them, I think Anderson would get it done. We're going to pick Imavov for now. Next up, Anderson Silva versus Sean Strickland. I'm not going to take a bunch of time on this. I'm going Anderson Silva here. Anderson Silva gets his first win versus the top 10 middleweights. There are more, so, stay tuned, obviously. But I think that Anderson Silva is better than Sean Strickland everywhere here. Strickland has shown that he's dumb and doesn't use his wrestling in fights, and he's incredibly stubborn in his approach. If he is going to Philly shell his way to a victory against a guy who also used a high shoulder guard, he's going to lose. He gets caught too much, in my opinion, for a guy that uses the shell. He does get hit a lot. Silva would have had a field day with body work here, and then mixing it up in his prime. I do think that Sean Strickland would be competent enough to maybe survive to a decision, but I kind of liken this fight to the Forrest Griffin fight. Obviously, Strickland's a better striker, but I think Anderson Silva would finish oh my goodness. I think Anderson Silva would finish Sean Strickland if they fought and Anderson was in his prime and Sean was in his current form. So, Anderson Silva, congrats on getting this one. Next up, Anderson Silva versus Khamzat Chimaev. Now, Chael Sonnen controlled Anderson Silva for about 15 minutes of their fight. The first time, and won the first round against him in their second fight. Weidman has wins over him. I know it was not incredibly wrestling heavy, but you kind of get what I mean. We're not going to get silly here. Anderson Silva did not have the takedown defense to deal with guys of his time, let alone a guy like Khamzat. I think Khamzat does literally whatever he wants to Anderson Silva. It could be that he just decides to lay on him for 5 rounds, gassed, because the kid loves that. But I think he genuinely takes Silva down and submits him in round 1. I think Khamzat does that to Anderson. Anderson could not defend the takedown, no chance. Gets his back, rear naked choke probably, and gets him out of there. I think Khamzat wins this easily. I'm not even going to spend much time breaking this down. I think it's pretty simple if you look at the matchmaking. The only issue Khamzat would have is if Anderson Silva had survivability on the ground in this scenario, but I don't think he would. So we're going Khamzat. Next up, Anderson Silva versus Israel Adesanya. Now, this is interesting because we saw this play out in real life. However, Anderson Silva was 41 or 40 at the time. I believe he was 41. Maybe he was older than that. Maybe he was like 45. I think it was 45 when he fought Izzy. And it was competitive. At 45 years old, it was a competitive fight where Anderson Silva had moments on the feet. That being said, I think Anderson Silva wins this in his prime. Izzy currently is less durable than the Izzy that fought Silva back in the day was. I think Silva would be faster on the feet than modern day Izzy. It's one of those things where Silva's a pretty bad matchup for Israel Adesanya. It's not even a grappling thing. It's that he is going to be the quicker, more slick guy, and Israel Adesanya relies on being quick and slick. So I think Anderson Silva wins this matchup. I think it would be very competitive on the feet. But it's one of those ones where it's probably like a 50-45, but Adesanya has his moments in each round. So I'd go Silva to beat Izzy. Next up, Anderson Silva versus Reinier de Ridder. I went back and forth on this a bunch because it's a really interesting matchup. Anderson Silva, to me, is the much better striker than Reinier de Ridder. Levels and levels above him. But Reinier de Ridder is a better grappler. He's a better BJJ practitioner in MMA. Submissions, takedowns, whatever it may be. I'm going to go Anderson Silva, and this is a very 50-50 fight to me. Reinier de Ridder has solid enough striking to where he could push Silva back into the cage, and I think if he can get a body lock on the cage, Reinier de Ridder could submit Anderson Silva. Now, if this fight spends more than 2 minutes on the feet, Prime Anderson Silva would make Reinier de Ridder pay for the 1 billion mistakes he makes. He's just kind of had the luxury of fighting guys that don't know how to make him pay as much. They don't know what to do with the goofy style. It's why GM3 did weirdly well versus Reinier de Ridder. But Prime Anderson Silva would exploit those holes, and I think once they get to the feet, even if it's at the start of a round. If Reinier de Ritter doesn't shoot immediately, I think that Silva would win. So we're going to go Anderson Silva for this matchup here. I kind of like it. Next up, Anderson Silva versus Caio Borralho. My pick here, I think, is going to shock a lot of people based on just how we think of these fighters. I'm going to go Anderson Silva again. Um, Borralho hasn't landed a takedown in his last 3 or 4 fights, I believe. I don't know what his deal is with that, but I think the reason is that he kind of fancies himself a striker now since he's been with the Fighting Nerds. And man, he's just not that good of a striker. He's got a decent 1-2, nothing that much more than that. Decent kicks. He's got elbows and knees if he wants them. But if he really is going to stand with these guys and he's going to stand with Silva, he has no chance. I mean, he finished Paul Craig. He basically finished Cannonier. But the durability on those guys is terrible. And it was not like, it wasn't like he did serious issues and serious damage to Abus Magomedov. Mahmoud Muradov had a legitimate performance against him, you know? So I'm not completely sold on Borralho as a striker. And I think if I'm not sold on you as a striker, I'm going to take Anderson Silva all day. I just think he's a little bit better than Borralho everywhere in the striking. And if Borralho is not going to engage him in takedowns, I think he would get mauled in the clinch too. So I'm going to go Anderson Silva here. Next up, I think you can guess why I have these three paired together versus Anderson Silva. I'm going to go with Anderson here. Cannonier is not nearly durable enough or a competent enough grappler to do anything to Anderson. Whitaker cannot beat. I mean, he probably would fight up to his level, but Whitaker is also not durable enough to deal with Anderson Silva. And I just hate Roman Dolidze's style. I just think he's incredibly boring. And he got rocked by Marvin Vettori in his last fight. So Roman Dolidze is kind of like a Chris Duncan type where, well, Chris Duncan honestly is a little bit better because at least he goes to war. Like Roman Dolidze is this guy that you hear is supposed to be good everywhere, but he's not. Like he's not that powerful. He does his BJJ is good, but he doesn't ever use it except for weird positions for Hermanson. Just kind of a 1-2 at range warrior with an occasional leg kick. I don't think that any of these three do anything to Anderson Silva. I think he finishes each of them. And those are 7 through 9. Now, looking at your screen, we have middleweights 7 through 9 in the rankings. Now, I could have thrown a 4th middleweight on here, but I did not. Ladies and gentlemen, I am about to make probably the hottest take in recent MMA YouTube history and MMA TikTok history. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez beats Anderson Silva. Prime Anderson Silva was a fantastic striker. I admit that. And Anthony Hernandez, terrible striker, has no business striking with anybody in the top 10 on the feet. Why does he keep winning fights? Because he gets it to the ground that fast. Michel Pereira hurt him in the first 30 seconds of their fight, then gassed kind of weirdly. Brendan Allen, I feel like, had moments versus him. Kopylov had moments. But the difference is that Hernandez is so good at getting you to the ground that it doesn't matter. I think Hernandez takes down Silva and submits him in the first round. I really think that he would take down Anderson Silva and control it. I would favor him more in a 3-round fight versus Prime Anderson Silva, but I still like him across 5 rounds. I just think that he is a guy who is willing to wrestle and ground and pound, and he doesn't care what you think about it. Like, he doesn't care about the whole man dance, oh, you gotta stand with me type of thing. Like, Hernandez is very willing to just shoot as soon as things get kind of dicey on the feet, which I like. I don't get why some of these guys who are really good wrestlers try and prove how tough they are. If you're really good at wrestling, then wrestle. Why do you think Ryan Hall barely ever stood in his fights? The guy was a BJJ guy. He would try and get you down to the ground to submit you. It's what Rodolfo Vieira does in his fights. He shoots 15 times, even though he's terrible at wrestling. But he knows if he gets you down, he's going to submit you. I think Anthony Hernandez would take down Anderson Silva and finish him on the ground. That's my take. Pretty hot one, but we're going to fuck with it, or roll with it. I don't know why I said fuck with it. And that is going to do it for the video today. I appreciate every single one of you for watching. I don't really like doing the matchmaking videos after cards because A, it's not a card I really care about that much, but B, like, I feel like every YouTuber does that. I kind of like switching it up for you guys and giving you a different type of video. So I hope you guys like this style. I did this with GSP already. Let me know down below if there's any other Prime GOAT that you want me to match make or want me to hypothetically put up against the current division, I thought about doing Demetrius Johnson. I could easily do like Prime Aldo at featherweight. So let me know down below. Maybe Dominic Cruz. I might do that next. Let me know down below what you want. If you're new, like, comment, and subscribe. If you've been here before, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the deal. TikTok is at MoneyManzelMMA, and I will see you boys in the next one. Peace out.